Long before A&E brought its cameras down to Cajun country, even before the family sold its first duck call, there was Phil Robertson and Kay Caraway, a high school quarterback and ninth grade cheerleader. The two fell for each other over their mutual love of hunting and fishing. How and why they stayed together after all these years? Well, that's the story now being told in the brand new movie, The Blind.
I hear these rare stories of how the impossible happened. Well, this is one of those stories.
You can do just about anything you set your mind to, Phil Robertson.
Well, joining us now via Skype are Phil, Kay, and their son, Willie Robertson. We welcome you all back to the program. It's always great to have you here.
Good to be here.
Well, Willie, I'm going to start with you. You're the executive producer of The Blind. What made you decide to make this movie?
Well, we had started a production company, really coming off of Duck Dynasty. We realized the power of media. We had so many people just say, man, we need more programming like this. So we wanted to launch all kind of things, TV and movies. And this was our first project as far as a movie. And we weren't sure whether or not to do it about our family. It seemed like it was kind of on the nose. And but it was just such an incredible story. We just decided that we really need to tell this story and tell it right. And fortunately, Mom and Dad are still here. A lot of the people that were on the movie are still here to tell us exactly what happened. And so that's why we started with this one.
Well, Kay, it's one thing to live your life. It's another thing to see it on the big screen. What surprised you the most about how the film portrayed your lives?
Well, I thought they did a great job, but I mean, the way she looked just like me, it was like watching myself, and it was so crazy. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. She looked like me and talked like me, and she was me. It was crazy. It really was.
Yeah.
Phil, was it hard to revisit some of the painful moments in your past, this time again on a big screen?
When they came to me, my third son, and said, we're going to make a movie about y'all's life, Dad. I said, that's going to be embarrassing. When I went to college, I reeled it back a few days ago when I got to thinking about it after watching the movie. And it occurred to me that for 4 years in college, then another 4 or 5 to get my master's degree. I'm a highly educated man, but not one time did I ever hear in an 8-year stretch, I never heard the word Jesus, God, unless it was filthy. And I looked back at it when I finally came to Jesus. That was in, that's about how long ago, Miss Kay? 50?
A long time ago.
50 years ago, yeah.
50 years ago, I said.
Traveling in circles, you would hear Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that makes a difference, doesn't it?
It certainly showed. And I was glad that that Mom and Dad were, open to sharing their story. And part of it was, when Phil and I talked about it, and he said, hey, if this can help other people and realize the power of the gospel and how it can change someone like them, then it's worth doing. Because, in Christianity, we often think, and one of the beautiful things about it is like your past is your past and Jesus has paid for your sins, and they are no more unless they make a movie about it, which
then they're gonna
live forever. So, so I'm so thankful that they did. We're for the sake of the gospel, opening up to sharing their life story.
Well, the old has gone, the new has come. Kay, tell us about those rock bottom moments, because you had those in your relationship. Your husband was a troublemaker. He was concerned with hunting, drinking, and wild living. You had no idea how to fix your marriage, how to get it all working the way you wanted it to. What did you do?
He was a fighter too. I wanted to tell you that. He loved to fight, which was not good. But I always tell everybody about, I lived part of my life with my grandmother, and we often sat and talked about it. And she would tell me I'd have to fight for my marriage. And I would say, why would I have to do that? That's crazy. I'm just going to be married and be happy ever after. And she said, that's not true. That's not true. She said, you will have trouble. Satan will come and try to mess you up, and with your marriage, with your children, everything. So you've got to be prepared. And she would sit in a swing and tell me stuff all the time. And, I didn't know I really retained it till I had to live it.
Yeah.
And when that was real, then I had to do it. And it was really hard because, 10 years is a long time to live where he was not living right. And I knew it. But I didn't want to leave him because I just wanted the marriage to work. I wanted my kids to have their dad. But finally, if you'll watch the movie, you'll see everything. He finally just put us out. And, but it all had the right thing to come back together. But if anybody says, what did you do that you're proud of? I think it's patience. Yeah. And just wanting and doing like my grandmother said, fighting for that marriage. I wouldn't let Satan take it.
Yeah. Well, and by that time, there were children involved. Phil, on your end of the story, what was your wake-up call?
Phil, what was your wake-up call?
My wake-up call was when I heard that God became flesh, 2,000 few years, God becoming flesh, died on a cross for us all, was buried in a tomb, and raised from the dead, stayed 40 days and went back into heaven. When I heard that, I was stunned that I had not heard that. So I thought, this sounds too good to be true. And the guy that's you'll see on the movie, Bill Smith, he was a preacher, and he came to the beer joint, and we sat down and talked.
You were rude to him.
I was very rude. So all the way to now, I've mixed with America somewhat, but I actually now have come to believe cell phones may be worth something, but I just don't want one.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
Somebody handed one my way, and I said, no, I don't think so. I said, that thing there, I hear it has a lot of funky stuff on it. When I came to Jesus, the funkiness left.
Unfortunately, there won't be any cell phones on this movie. So.
Yeah, no cell phones on the movie.
Because it's shot in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So it's a timepiece, which is really cool going back and seeing. And shockingly, in Northwest Louisiana, where we shot most of it, a lot of the areas still look the same as they did, I believe, in the 50s and 60s and 70s. So it's kind of cool to go back and see that portrayed in the movie.
Willie, what do you want the takeaway of the movie to be for people?
I think overall, we just want to show that there's hope and redemption, no matter how far gone you are. At the end of the day, when you're like Phil, he heard the gospel, but he had actually lived his life in such a way that there wasn't a lot of positives left. And so he clung to that. But also Kay's story about patience and just sticking with it. And I think, it's a love story, and it's I just want people to take that away, that whether or not you're in this position or this position, or even us as kids, or even the pastor, Bill, who got in his car, thank God, and drove to that bar, that beer joint, as Phil called it. And so I think there's a calling probably somewhere in all that story. Phil's sister plays a huge role of never giving up on her brother, and she's the one that begged the preacher to go up there. So that's really the takeaway, is that there's hope in Jesus, and obviously you can see how it turned out, and through this and Duck Dynasty and all the things that we did. But there was a moment where it could have went either way, and hopefully people can see that, not not go the other way and destroy everything.
Well, there's a steadfastness that is a part of trusting the Lord, and it seems at the core of this movie. It's called The Blind. It's hitting theaters as a Fathom event. It premieres on September the 28th. Just go to theblindmovie.com to see where it might be playing near you and order your tickets. Well worth seeing. Thank you, Robertson family. It's always wonderful to have you with us.
Hey, good to be here.
So much.
Thanks. The Lord bless you.